Welcome. Greetings, everyone. This is R.Lynn Harmon L, and I am here on behalf of the Wali Yamesi Indigenous Native American Association of Nations. And I am here on Keeping People Real TV. And today we are going to continue a conversation that began approximately 14 days ago, wherein we had shared with you the episodes that had occurred regarding an unlawful and fraudulent eviction that had occurred at the asset, which is actually owned by the trust of the Indigenous Native American Association of Nations, 1361 South 46th Street here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, wherein the sheriffs appeared as SWAT, and they were ready, willing, and prepared to annihilate.
Somebody open the door.
Get off me!
Come on, step back.
Get off me!
Step back. Get the keys. You got the keys in there? Alright, well, let's lock it. Let's lock it.
What are we supposed to learn?
Huh? We're gonna lose the doors. So,
Oh, well.
alright then, well, let's go. Let's get mommy ready, because they're coming.
Us over the matter. Okay, so we're going to further elaborate regarding the specifics surrounding those particular circumstances, which primarily deals with fraudulent foreclosures, which have become quite prevalent in the city of Philadelphia, with the assistance of the Courts of Common Pleas, the Pennsylvania Bar Association, and other agencies and agents that are actually cooperating and working collusively to disinherit the indigenous people from their, not just their lands, but also their properties. At this time. So we have some preliminary matters that we need to address prior to moving forward with the continued discussion of those events. And one of the preliminary matters is to clarify a misunderstanding that could possibly have occurred from the first take regarding any type of association or affiliation that I, R.Lynn Harmon, may have with any specific indigenous nation. I indicated that I was not going to specifically mention which nation I am actually affiliated with. However, at this juncture, it is very important that I actually do mention, although for the viewers, it is not necessary for you, but it is necessary to clarify so that there is no misunderstanding regarding any status that I mention here, regarding any status that I have with any type of nation. Okay, so the indigenous nation that I am specifically affiliated with, meaning I am registered with as a national, is the Wali Yamesi Indigenous Native American Association of Nations. With that specific nation, I am the JurisConsul, and I do sit as the chief judge on that particular Aboriginal council. Okay, there are orders and decrees that we have issued, and there are opinions, and there are cases that we have accepted and we have taken on behalf of our national. If there has been any confusion regarding anything that I have stated in any previous videos regarding my status, and there is a misunderstanding, you know, I do apologize for that, because we are here to be clear and not to cause any further misunderstandings regarding any indigenous individuals or nations status, and you know, as it pertains to international law, you know, on a local level, or on a global level. Okay, now to address the specifics regarding what transpired on October 6, 2021, beginning at 9 o'clock in the morning. These particular events that occurred, which involved the declaration of war by the Philadelphia Sheriff's Department against my family, if I was not specific, despite the fact that I do hold these specific status and titles with the nation. This is my family that was attacked, and this is not the first time that my family has been attacked by the government. Okay, and the first time my family was actually attacked was actually directed to me when I was living at 429 North 13th Street, and in a condo wherein a landlord-tenant dispute ensued, and I did assert my indigenous status because the courts at that time did not see fit to actually take into consideration that the preliminary matter that was involved in that particular situation involved an unlicensed landlord. Okay, and as a result of a series of violations, including rodent infestation and the condo being directly built over a garbage disposal unit, where all of the trash from all of the units in the condo building were deposited. There were some unfortunate situations and circumstances that were happening with that particular unit, and when the matter was presented to be resolved, there was no justice that they saw fit to apply in that situation. And so a series of unlawful events began to happen, and in the process of that, I was poisoned. Okay, and we are going to provide some pictures as evidence of the poison and the outbreak that occurred. And I am stating for the record here that the poison, the situation was so severe that it took me approximately 5 to 6 years to recover. I had mentioned previously that this poisoning situation also, there were some remnants, and that I was currently dealing with extracting the remnants that the poison had actually left in my system. And so those are the specific, repercussions and real life situations that I had to deal with as a result of me actually standing up for my rights and actually looking for justice in that situation. Shortly thereafter, there was an attack on my family, and the first individual to lose their home was my father. Okay, his home, my family has lived in the Southwest Philadelphia area for over 100 years. You know, we are bloodline wise, we are Blackfoot and Salagi. Okay, Salagi is well known today as the Cherokee Native American or Indian, and my family is the direct bloodline from those two tribes, and so therefore a part of my family has been living in this area for over 100 years. They were living in this area prior to there actually being streets, and there were actually creeks and canals that actually ran throughout the Southwest Philadelphia area, which is known as the Woodlands. Okay, now further thereafter, you know, after my father's home was taken, and you know, through an unlawful lien that was placed on his home by the water department for approximately somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000. They took his home, which was definitely worth substantially more than that, and they refused to take any of his complaints regarding the fact that that there was some mistake regarding the billing at that address, you know, that was being attached to that particular address, because at the time he had no water, and he had at that particular address. Okay, so regardless of his attempts to remedy the matter, his attempts were ignored, and his home was sold at sheriff's sale, foreclosed upon on this lien, with the assistance of the law firms, and the law firms will be announced and included as well, so that you will recognize, you will be made aware of what law firms are actually involved in the unlawful foreclosures that are that have become very prevalent. In the city of Philadelphia. Okay, thereafter, we are dealing with the situation of my grandmother's home. It was actually formerly her home, because I actually put it into a trust. So like I said, the asset was actually currently owned by the Indigenous Native American Association of Nations through my family transferring the property into a family trust. Okay, the courts, however, did not want to acknowledge the trust, nor did they at any time want to acknowledge my participation in representing in any capacity. And the case reflects that, as I indicated in a previous recording, wherein the lead attorney on the matter, a Mr. Michael Baumstein, Esquire, had presented to the court a motion that was filed to prevent me from being able to communicate, or actually to prevent him, or allow him and other attorneys on the matter to not have to deal with responding to anything that I had presented to them, including any interrogatories, you know, that were requesting any documents, such as any evidence that any funds had been transferred into my grandmother's account, or that she had actually received the funds. That they were alleging that they had loaned her. that she had allegedly put up the house as collateral as. The documents that I am making reference to will be, you know, they would be they would be placed below, or they will be presented as we proceed, so that you can have a take some time to actually review those documents yourself and see how at the intake portion, how she was labeled as being, how she was indicated on the intake document as being the sole owner of the property. And this was in, I believe, 2011, and how her name was the only name that was included on the document, as well as her pension that she was receiving. Okay, so with that being the case, we will also include the deed, which on its face presents that anyone who had even looked at the deed could visibly see that her name, the deed that was publicly recorded, that her name was not the sole name that was on the deed. All of this information was presented to the court and the Court of Common Pleas of Philadelphia County, and the courts refused to acknowledge that this information. And when all of these documents were presented and questions were presented regarding the actual signatures, as well as missing names on certain documents that would have legitimized the document, that is when the attorneys for Flagstar and through a third party, Matrix Financial, came after me directly and requested that the court permit them to not have any dealings with me. Their argument was that at the time, because I had not paid any dues to the Bar Association, that I was not, that I was not permitted to come before the court as an attorney. And again, I present to you here that I was not in any way presenting myself as an attorney. As the JC, the JurisConsul of the Indigenous Native American Association of Nations Court, I was advocating on behalf of my family and representing them as the trustee, because the property at that time had been transferred into a trust that was, like I said, that was under the ownership and the direction of the Wiley Yamasee government. Okay. All of these documents, you are going to be made available to you to provide evidentiary evidence in this matter. Okay. Now, the other thing that we do want to discuss regarding this matter, because it is all connected. Okay. The fact that that I refuse to cooperate, with the city of Philadelphia, the courts, etc. This is what led them to, to ignore many of the attempts, including a correspondence by myself coming from the Wiley Yamasee JurisConsul office, as well as coming from the desk of the Grand Chief, as well as coming from the compliance office of Wiley Yamasee regarding the status of this property, were completely ignored. And the ignoring of these matters is, especially when you are dealing with the states, is a violation of well-settled law that the states are not to have any say and are not to interrupt any dealings involving tribes or tribal matters. However, the states, including the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, particularly I can speak of Philadelphia here, they are not adhering to JurisConsul, which is the law of it is the international law, and which has been understood for centuries regarding jurisdiction, that that anything involving the indigenous peoples is the jurisdiction of the federal government, period. It is the jurisdiction involving the federal government, and this is not a belief, this is law, okay? And it is well-established law. It is law that was established before my existence. It is well-established law before many of the agents who are actually living and violating these laws existence. And so with that, we would like to now turn to dealing with the rights of indigenous peoples, specifically the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, and discuss how the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, which was established by the United Nations, affects what has happened, what has been happening directly to my family, and not just my family, but indigenous peoples all around the world. Okay, because it is an international issue, it is a human rights issue, and it is also a Geneva Convention and Hague violation, or Hague Convention issue, because as indigenous peoples still living in lands that have been colonized, we are actually prisoners of war. And whether this government decides that they are going to accept our nations as legitimate government nations or not, there are international laws that apply directly to the treatment that these governments that are operating as colonizers upon the lands of the indigenous, that they are bound to treat us. Okay, and so if we are being treated as prisoners of wars, then there are certain rights that we have. And if we are not being treated as prisoners of war, but we are being treated as indigenous peoples who actually have a legitimate who have the legitimate standing as of a nation. And you will see that for Wali Yemisi, the Munberafin clan, that we have all of the legitimate documents. Not just the legitimate documents, but we have a constitution, and we also have our code of law. Okay, so when we are talking about jurisdiction, the jurisdiction that we have and that our nationals have, we have laws that are on the book, and our laws are the governing laws for our nation. These are the laws that the states, as well as the federal government, has been ignoring. All right, and so with that, we are going to provide you with all of the the evidentiary documents, because I am not here just to make blanket accusations against anyone. These are facts. These are events that have happened, and with subsequent episodes, we will delve deeper into, what it means to actually be indigenous. All right, and also we will also address the issue of nationality and what is necessary in order for you to claim your nationality, because and we'll talk about that. Black, African American, Negro, colored is not a nationality. Even America, calling yourself an American is not your nationality. Those individuals, look at the immigrants who have come here. When they return to where the land that they have immigrated from, they don't, they re-acknowledge the nationality that they are, whether that is Irish, whether that is English, whether that is Spanish, whether that is French. Okay, so these are the discussions that we are going to have here on the R.Lynn Harmon L show. That is here on Keeping People Real. Okay, we're not here to cause any confusion. We are here to clarify matters. And so with that being said, we also want to further clarify regarding, the nationality and how you may think that in order for you to claim your nationality, that you actually have to be affiliated with a nation. And I am here to tell you that that is not necessarily the case. Okay, and so we will address in detail nationality, because it is important that you understand what is happening. I have, recently become aware of the fact that there are several indigenous nations out here that are not they are not legitimate nations, meaning that these are nations that have been put out to manipulate the public into thinking that they are a separate nation, so that the current colonizing government can maintain control over the people who they consider to be assets of the Americas. Okay, you have to remember that the United States is a capitalistic country, okay, actually corporation that presents itself as being a country, but it is not a country. It is and has been incorporated, as have all the other states and commonwealths. Okay, again, anything that I mention here, we can provide, the evidence. You can conduct your own individual research in order to substantiate and verify what it is that I am saying. However, I too am going to provide you with the evidence in the documents, because I understand that conducting your own research sometimes can be very time consuming, and since a lot of the information I have spent the past 6 years collecting, I have no problem sharing that information with you, the viewers. But the purpose of me coming forth is just to, is to present through my voice of just sharing what it is that I know from personal experience, as well as the law. Okay, because yes, I was barred in Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey upon examination. Okay, these are not honorary degrees that were just given to me. I earned everything that I, that is a part of my CV and my bio. I have taken these exams, and I passed the exams, and the accounts that I received, and the accounts that I received in return for passing these exams, those accounts belong to me. They belong to me just like any other account that the United States government as created as I begin to excel within the United States. Again, when I am sharing with you, perhaps you know what it is that I am talking about, and if you do not, within the subsequent episodes, these topics I will take the time to explain, to at least attempt to thoroughly explain how the system that was created under the United States government basically turned all indigenous people into assets that would fund the United States government in order for the United States government to operate on the international level and become a superpower. Okay, so with that, we are going to end here, and we will be picking up the discussion in a subsequent episode because this is not the end of this discussion, but here, I would like to say thank you to everyone who has taken the time to listen as well as to review the documents. Okay, that have been either attached or presented on the screen for you to, for you personally to review and observe on your own. Again, I am not here to cause any confusion. I am just here to present the facts as they have occurred, unemotionally, unambiguously, and just to logically present them to the public here. On Keeping People Real TV. So we'll see you next week, and thank you.